So welcome back to week 9, everybody. It's awesome to have you back. Hopefully you've had a wonderful week, enjoying a nice, big, yummy Thanksgiving meal with family and had a fun day. Now we're back into the Bible stories, and I'm so grateful to have you back. So I want to just give a huge shout out to some kids this week who got back with me with the answers to the questions that I asked last week. The first question was, Moses went down to the river, he struck it with his staff, and what did the water turn to? And the answer was blood. Isn't that crazy? It was blood, gross, but yet really kind of cool at the same time that God was creating this amazing miracle to turn the whole Nile River to blood. Can you imagine? And so the people who answered that question correctly was Ethan and Josiah. So good job, guys. Thank you so much for getting back to me on that question. The second question was that God sent a plague through the land of Egypt that swept through and ate all the Egyptians' food. And what was the answer to that? Locusts, that's right, or grasshoppers. Locusts is what the Bible calls them. That's what swept through. And a huge shout out to Hannah. She answered that question. Thank you so much for taking the time to get back with me, Hannah. And also Ethan again. Ethan answered that question. So good job, all of you. Hannah, Ethan, and Josiah, thank you so much for taking the time to answer those questions. All right, so our question for this week, we're going to have 2 again. And before I ask it though, we're going to approach this question thing a little differently. We're going to add another element to it. So, because I could give shout outs all day long to everyone. I love doing it. I love mentioning your name. So keep answering these questions. Even if you've answered it a couple times, I don't mind at all if you keep answering the question. But we're going to add a little addition to it. On top of the shout out, we're going to play a little game with it from week to week. So this is a stick figure, and we're going to call it Build a Human. All right. Now, if you've been in any of my Sunday school classes, we like to play this game where it's kind of reverse hangman. We play hangman, but instead of hanging the guy, if someone gets a letter correctly, then I'll let the person choose whatever they want to decorate the man with. So sometimes we've had like a pirate with a wizard's hat, with a tutu on and some cowboy boots and a dinosaur tail sticking out, and maybe a sword in his hand or a magic wand or anything like that. We get crazy and silly with it. And so we're going to do the same thing with this. This is Build a Human. And so what we're going to do is if you want to send in an answer to my question, also send me one thing that you would like me to draw on the human, okay? This can be a man or a woman. It could have a hat or a bonnet. It can have pants or a skirt, or it can have anything to make it kind of be crazy. A parrot on his shoulder, a sword in his hand, whatever you guys want. I want you to be creative. Send me one creative thing, and we'll see after maybe about a few months what this person looks like. He's going to change or she's going to change from week to week. And so hopefully at the end, we'll end up with something fun and entertaining and kind of silly too. So that just adds a little element of fun. So if you send me your answer, also send me one thing that you'd like me to draw with the human. Okay? All right. So let's do this. Our next question for next week is going to be to send me the answer. Here's the first question. So we talked about the last plague that God sent through the land of Egypt last week, if you remember. And it was each firstborn of an Egyptian person would die. And that was the last plague that God sent through. Now, as the destroying angel came through the land of Egypt and the oldest of the Egyptians died, what was happening in the homes of the Hebrews? God commanded them to do something special. And they were having a meal. And so I want you to this is the answer to the question. What was the meal called that the Hebrew people were having in their homes as the destroying angel swept through? Okay? What was the meal called that God commanded them to eat as the destroying angel swept through their homes? Okay, first question. Second question is this. How does God keep his promise to forgive us today? All right? How does God keep his promise to forgive us today? You might have to do a little review and go back to last week's video. This might be a little bit of a harder question, but think through it. How does God keep his promise to forgive today? All right, those are our 2 questions this week. Hopefully I hear back some more answers, and don't forget, if you send me an answer, What's one thing that you want me to draw on the human over there? All right? Okay. So let's do for this week. We have our story. It's pretty evident what it is on the board. I'm sure you can all guess what that is. Probably it's a lot of your favorite stories in the Bible. And we're going to have fun with it today. It's called No Way to Escape. All right, let's go at it. No way to escape. God's people left Egypt as quickly as they could. Moses walked right at the front of the line. God guided the people with a cloud during the day. At night, the cloud turned to fire. The people could always see where God wanted them to go. Soon God's people came to the Red Sea. It looked as big as an ocean. There was no way to walk across it. They couldn't fly over it. They couldn't dig under it. God's cloud stood still. The people stood still in the hot sun. They started to complain. Moses, why did you bring us out here? It's too hot. Moses looked behind them. Pharaoh was coming with his chariots and horses and his entire army. He was coming to take God's people back to Egypt. There was no way to escape. God's people were afraid. But Moses said, "Be still. God will keep his promises. God will fight for you." Then God told Moses to stretch out his staff over the sea. Right away, the water separated. There were two giant walls of water, one on the left and one on the right. God's people walked right between the walls of water on dry ground. God kept his people safe until they were all the way across the sea. Then Moses raised his staff over the sea again. The water crashed down on Pharaoh and his army. That was the last God's people saw of them. Have you ever been afraid? When we are afraid, we can trust Jesus. Jesus is on our side. He fights for his people. All right, I love that story. It's such an awesome story that really shows God's power, God's majesty, and what he does for his children. And one point before we get into our topic of discussion and our question, and that's it. In showing this story, it's so important to remember that the Bible makes it so clear that it's God who parted the Red Sea. It wasn't Moses. A lot of people like to give Moses credit. They say, be more like Moses when you read the Bible or maybe in your Sunday school lessons. But it's really important to remember that the Bible never tells us to be like Moses. The Bible tells us to follow God. And in following God, we are then made more like his son, Jesus Christ. Okay? We're never told to be more like Moses. And so the Bible, again, it makes it so clear that it wasn't Moses that performed this miracle. It was God who performed this miracle. Moses was a sinful man just like us. He did some really bad things just like we've done. But God loved him. God had anointed him to do an amazing work. And so Moses wasn't good because he was Moses. He was good and he did great things because God was working in him and through him to bring about his wonderful plan on earth. So, in your Sunday school lessons, it's important. Don't walk away thinking that you're supposed to be more like Moses or more like Abraham or more like King David or more like Elijah or all these prophets we talk about in the Bible. The lives of these prophets are pointing us forward to Jesus Christ. It's pointing us to who he is. And they're showing us how God can work amazing miracles and amazing things through broken humans, just like us, just like these prophets. All of us are meant to live a life for God that glorifies him and brings about his kingdom here on earth. All right? I'm so excited because the older you get, the more you begin to build a relationship with Jesus and you walk in his ways, the more you'll begin to fully understand what that means. Okay? All right. So, our topic of discussion, God will fight for you. The book talks about how you should be still. God will keep his promises. God will fight for you. Be still is to be at peace, to know and have faith that God is bigger and stronger than any situation you might experience. No matter how hard, no matter how sad, no matter how big of a struggle it might be, God will fight for you. Because when you follow him, you are his. He loves you. He has given everything for you so that you could have everything in him. All right? So God will fight for you. Be still, be at peace, and know that that's true. Have faith in that. All right, the question. Have you ever been afraid? I mean, I've been afraid. I've been afraid a lot. I've been big time afraid before. But God is bigger than our fear. I'm sure a lot of you have been afraid before too, whether you're at home alone, or you might have gotten lost for a minute, or maybe you saw something scary, or maybe you were just in a really uncomfortable circumstance. We've all experienced fear, and we've all been afraid. But the book reminds us, when we're afraid, we can trust Jesus. Jesus is on our side. He fights for his people. All right? Jesus is with us. He's always with us. His love surrounds us and comforts us, even at times when it may not feel like it. So when you're afraid, turn your heart to Jesus. Get on your knees and pray to Jesus. Ask him to cover you, to protect you, to shower his love over you. And just keep in your life every day, keep trusting in him. Keep turning to him when you experience fear, when you experience struggles. Keep getting on your knees and saying, Jesus, I know you're bigger than any situation I can find myself in. Please be with me now and help me to know that you are with me. Okay? Jesus loves you. He fights your battles. He's stronger than any other circumstance you could find yourself in life. And he will carry you and protect you and keep you safe because he loves you more than you could ever imagine. All right. That is our lesson for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. One other awesome announcement I forgot to put at the beginning. You are all going to see 2 new faces doing these videos. You don't have to see my face all the time anymore. So that's awesome. They're going to bring a fun, exciting dynamic to these lessons, and it's going to change things up so you're not stuck with me all the time. So I'm excited to have them join us. They're going to be joining us in a couple weeks, and you'll be able to know who they are when they come on. I'm going to keep you anticipating and keep it exciting for you. But I just wanted to share that news with you, that exciting news, and I can't wait for you to meet them all. So don't forget, the passages for the story that you're supposed to be reading this week will be at the end of this video. Don't forget to watch that so you can know what Bible passages to read throughout the week. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me this week. I cannot wait to see you next week. See ya.